Welcome back to the Cosmic Mistress podcast. I'm Amanda, and today we're talking with Bruce Dines. Bruce, thanks for being here. We're going to talk about life transitions, a little bit of death, and the beauty that comes with the human experience and the struggle and the opportunity that's in all of it.
Thanks, Amanda. It's great to be here, and it's been fun to get to know you over the past couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So after finishing a business career last year, I'm pursuing some of my real passions, and those revolve around the human journey, the path of evolution,
Mm-hmm.
and how do we evolve ourselves and grow not only physically and mentally, but also from a standpoint of spirit. And so I've been in some ways a student of that for a good portion of my life. And I tie that in with my passion and interest in sustainability,
Mm-hmm.
because we need to become more evolved, I think, from a human spirit standpoint to engage in more loving and interactive ways with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And to engage in more loving and interactive ways with ourselves, and then, of course, with the planet that supports all of us.
Totally.
So anyway, wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you moved through or anything that sparked your passion for the spirituality component and the finding the humanness and the evolution? Was there anything that really pushed you into that, like your own trajectory on that? Or has it kind of always been something that you've been?
It's in a way, it's always been underneath. I grew up here in Colorado, and
Mm-hmm.
Colorado was a different state when I grew up in it. And much lower population, much less crowded. And I spent a lot of time in the woods, hiking
Mm-hmm.
and paddling and fly fishing and river rafting and climbing and doing all the kinds of outdoorsy things that this beautiful state has to offer. And I was out there so much because I think that's where I felt the closest engagement and the closest ties to my own personal being and my own roots.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really grounded, I think, in that earlier stage of life. And then, yes, I've been through some transitions that have, been valuable for me in terms of continuing the journey and recognizing that the one very simple truth, which is we can live on a plane where we believe that we are essentially our thoughts and our feelings, and the way that we interact with people will be based on our thoughts and feelings at that moment in time. Or we can recognize that as human beings, we're more than our thoughts and our feelings. And
Mm-hmm.
so what is that more? And that's what I am really interested in exploring.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I would imagine too, the connection to nature and being outside and all of those activities too really allow you to experience them more.
Yeah. And that was always there. The more is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm clearly a part of this grand more. It's also, the more is this incredible thing of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you're looking at the big macro landscape of the mountains and the rivers and the valleys, or if you're looking at a juniper tree that is surviving in drought conditions, on the arid slope of,
Mm-hmm. Or a ladybug that lands on your hand.
California. Yeah, exactly.
The little things too.
Yeah, there's this beauty and harmony that I've come to see in all of it, and then recognizing that one of the ways that I see that beauty and harmony is recognizing that I have that beauty and harmony within me too.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I tap into it
Mm-hmm.
more coherently?
Yeah. I've found an interesting thing too, where I'm in a place of like deep pain or grief. And when I really allow myself to be almost like devoured by that experience, I have such a broader opening to notice the little pieces of beauty. It's almost like when you really allow yourself to break a little bit, you allow your heart to break a little bit.
Yeah.
It like opens up so much wider and you can notice those things so much more.
Yeah. That's a very, very accurate perception. And I think, we're raised, from early on in a society that has certain trajectories, guardrails, if you will, and parents with their children are constantly wanting their kids to play within those guardrails. And, if you act out as a child in a grocery store, it's wait a minute, hang on, that's not accepted. And we gradually learn to contain those sentiments and feelings. And in some households, lots of households, I think that can become really restrictive.
Totally.
And, those are the people that can benefit from some form of deep search and deep therapy, where they begin to understand that by not engaging with their feelings, not acknowledging their feelings, shutting those feelings down, they're actually shutting themselves off from experiencing the kind of beauty and harmony. So to the extent that we can fully engage with our anger and our grief during these difficult transition moments, I think it opens us up to see the happiness, the joy, the beauty, the harmony, and the positive experiences too.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think the challenge is too, like when we move through something, like even as a child, like you're speaking to, like with the containment or moving through hardship or pain or grief, if we don't allow ourselves to experience those things, we start to build an identity around those thoughts and those feelings. Right. And we forget that we're also so much more than just that.
Yes. I'm
curious if you've had a transition or an experience where you found it either most challenging or just, really, really hard to get out of the thought and the feeling of what that transition was providing you. Was there anything that took you a little bit longer or taught you a little bit more?
Yeah. So the grand learning for me over the course of my journey, I grew up in a very restrictive household. Like my father was, he should have walked around with epaulets on his shoulders all the time. He was like a military grade disciplinarian and very black and white in his thinking, and very much you will behave like this. And he created a lot of fear in the household around veering from any sort of behavior that he viewed to be not normal. And so I was one of these people that repressed a lot of the feelings that I had around anger, around sadness, around the sense that as a sensitive, perceptive kid, I wasn't, that side of me was not acknowledged in any way. Of course,
it wasn't safe.
And not accepted.
Yeah.
And so it's been a long journey for me to work through both the unveiling and the experience of those feelings, and it's been a wonderfully opening process for me, because as I worked through that, I was able to come back around and see my father in a very different way. And there was a period of 3 years where I didn't talk to him because it was just one massive trigger every time I was around the guy.
Totally.
And it wasn't until I worked through those feelings that I was able to go back and repair that relationship. And I think part of it was his love of scotch. I think part of it was his own aging, but he began to mellow and he began to open.
Mm-hmm. Probably because you did.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I was definitely a factor and a variable in that. And our relationship gratefully shifted, and he became a confidant and a friend, and not necessarily in a way that could really understand me, but somebody who would not sit there and judge me from on high for being different than he was.
Yeah, and I would imagine you were also able to accept more of him and where he was at and his own journey and how he showed up despite the impact that it had on you, which allowed him to soften too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really interesting how it really only takes one. Like, it just takes one of us to really do the work.
Yeah.
And to move through that and heal. And like what you're speaking to is like the ripple effect that happens on both sides, like past, present, and also future generations. So powerful. I'm curious how the repression of emotions and that containment as a child, how that started to show up in unsupportive ways in your life, and how you really knew like, okay, wow, it's time to maybe start working with these things.
Yeah, the way it showed up for me was I just went into a severe depression.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's when I realized that you know, I was hurting. I didn't understand where it came from or why it was there. But I still remember that the first call it coach or therapist, whatever you want to call it, but the first person who had human insight that I had a chance to meet with told me that depression is disowned anger turned on yourself.
Yeah, it has nowhere to go.
And I've never forgotten that. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then my son subsequently went through a depression of his own, and I was able to share that same thing with him. And I don't know how helpful that specifically was, but he pulled through it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's how it manifested for me. And that's when I first began to get in touch with that disowned anger that we spoke about.
Yeah, it's amazing how heavy the body can start to feel and the effects that it has on us when things are left unexpressed.
Yes. Heavy is a great descriptive word.
And that's, you know, I've experienced that too. And that's really like the sensation of depression.
Yes.
You know, it's just like this overarching feeling of heaviness, both like mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Right. And just like, this lack of energy, the lack of motivation.
Yeah, I think when you like anger in and of itself has so much charge and it has so much energy. So when you do allow it to move, like the space that you're creating and like what you shared earlier too, of like understanding that you're so much more, that's how you can create a little bit of space for that perception to kind of come in a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, I love too that, you know, I think even when sharing is so important, like how you shared your experience with your son, because, and even if he hadn't moved through that himself yet, right? Even if he was still in it, the impact that will have at some point, not knowing when, is so big.
Yeah.
And there's so many of us still that don't share those things.
Right.
And yeah, I just think it's really important to keep sharing what it means to be human, especially the people that you care about.
Yeah. And then, you know, my dad was unable to do that. I think it's typical of the World War II generation, right? The men didn't talk about their feelings. But that's a big part of our human nature and understanding that, you know, our parents who we look up to have feelings. Sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative. They're human.
Yeah, they're human too.
And it really helps us, I think, as children and as we grow up to understand that it's okay. It's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to process them and move through them.
Totally.
The how-to is where people struggle. That's certainly what I struggled with. And I needed some coaching. We all do.
Yeah. We all do. It's not something that most of us learned. And even, me, that's specifically the space that I work in. And also it is so much more accessible with support. Not only like being led through it, but the power of being seen while moving through that creates such a sense of, acceptance, belonging. And I think can also just bring you back to that piece of you're actually so much more than this moment. You're so much more than this feeling.
Right.
And yeah, it's just super powerful. I'd love to shift into death, dying, grief, all of that. I would love to know what your relationship to death is like and maybe how that has shifted over the years.
Yeah. Oh, where to start on this? Maybe I'll start at a high level.
Perfect.
My belief, the conclusion I've come to is that for people to kind of want to explore the more, they have to bump into a real obstacle. Like they have to recognize that they don't have the wherewithal themselves, and the medical system doesn't have the wherewithal to get them through whatever obstacle they're dealing with. They have to find another path and another way. And typically that path turns into some level of self-exploration. And I think if we're willing to do that work and look at that, then we recognize that the transitions that we've been gifted cause a surrender of some sort. It may be a surrender of our own ego. It may be the surrender of attachment. It may be the surrender of feelings of anger because, our child is in trouble, or, our spouse was taken away from us far too early. There's little surrenders along the way. And I think that the ultimate journey, if you believe in higher power or spirit of some kind, the ultimate journey is the final surrender, which is surrendering into death. And I think that comes more easily to people who recognize it as just another transition, right? It's not the end game.
Yeah.
And they have been willing to do these other little surrenders along the way that makes them easier to do the big and the final surrender.
Totally. I think it was Ram Dass who said too, I watched a documentary and at the very end of his life, and he's just so blissful all the time, but his take on death was, he was excited. He was excited to go home, and home being he's about to meet all of himself.
Yeah.
And all of who created him and all of the things. And I think, when we experience it like that, just like a transition, a death, a divorce, a career change, it's, you're about to meet more of who you are.
Right.
And the big surrender, I think for me and for a lot of people too, is also the letting go of the future you thought you were going to have.
Right. Yeah.
And trusting that maybe you don't know what it's going to be, but maybe you're not supposed to know what it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. The big surprise.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so that's at the high level. And we talked about the importance of transitions and surrender. It's been interesting for me because I have a mom, like we all do, but my mom is incredibly special to me. And she just had her 98th birthday.
Yeah.
And I've had the opportunity to talk with her about her own death and get a sense of how she feels about it. She is not at all afraid to die.
Mm-hmm.
She's really had an incredible life, a life, an enviable life in the sense that all the surrenders that she made along the way were pretty easy surrenders relative to a lot of us.
Yeah.
We always used to kid her when we were growing up that mom sees the world through rose-colored glasses, and in a way she does, but in a way it's based on the fact that her life has been comparatively free from the really challenging transitions that so many of us have to go through. But
sounds like it's working really well for her, though, to have that much peace.
It's worked really well for her, and she's still joyful. My sister has asked her how long she wants to live, and she says, I think I want to live till I'm 100, but mostly I just want to live as long as I'm engaged, and I'm so engaged. She plays bridge once or twice a week. She does Tai Chi in the mornings.
Oh, wow.
To the extent that she can. She's on a walker.
Mm-hmm.
She has dinner with friends. I have two siblings, and we all see her at least once a week.
Mm-hmm.
So she's surrounded by people who love her, and everybody just adores her. So
yeah, what a gift.
Yeah, she's been a real gift.
What has her level of acceptance and peace with her life and future death, what has that created for you and your siblings?
Well, I think very highly of my mom. She's been a great role model for me. Mm-hmm. She's the strongest woman I know. She's got good intentions. She's a great listener. She's gotten better about this over the course of her life. She didn't used to be this way, particularly when she was married. Through most of her marriage. Later, I think it was better for her, but she's gotten much better about drawing boundaries and being clear about who she is and what she wants. She's just been a really good role model, and she's one of these people that has aged very gracefully. We've all been around people who, as they age, and their window as they have to surrender more. A lot of the surrenders are physical, right? They have to, give up the sport that they loved, or, give up the climbing of mountains because their knees don't hold up. Whatever the surrender might be, maybe they've lost a child, or maybe they've lost their wife. And there's a level of anger and bitterness around it, and they get cranky. Mm-hmm. And despite the surrenders my mom's been through in terms of her physicality, she's never seen her cranky.
Wow.
I really haven't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, even though there's these transitions and these changes, how can we not be so attached to our experiences with them? And like, what still creates aliveness for me, even if it's something different?
Yeah.
Because that's really the key to staying alive. Because I think too, there's a lot of people that are still like physically alive, but their aliveness isn't there because they're still attached and they're still connected to the things that they're holding on to that are no longer actually present.
Yeah. They're living in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the death conversations with your mom?
I feel good about them. I had an experience at a heart incident that resulted in emergency surgery, open heart surgery, and I made it to the hospital within a few minutes, basically, and doctor there saved my life. I mean, there's no question about it. They had me on the surgery table and asleep, and, I had time to call my 2 kids and say goodbye to them, and call my mom and say
Wow.
goodbye to them. And my now ex-wife was with me, and I had a chance to say goodbye to her. I had no idea whether I was going to wake up or not. But one thing that I was very conscious of, and I was 62 years old at the time, one thing I was very conscious of was I was not afraid. I was not afraid to die. And I got a lot of peace out of that experience.
Yeah, I bet.
And I've felt peaceful about that ever since. And I can't even approach Ram Dass's level.
I
right?
don't know if any of us can.
But the concept of death, because I view it as a transition, is easier for me. And I think that I will be at a stage in my life when that I'm ready for that transition, that it's something I'll look forward to.
I love that. Do you feel like you came out of that experience of thinking you were about to die, saying goodbye to all your loved ones, when you found out that you actually weren't going to die? How did that shift how you showed up for life?
It was a slow burn of a new journey. It was definitely a transition.
Yeah. Because
I recognized, I won't go into the details of the surgery.
It's an intense surgery.
It's called an aortic dissection. You probably know it with your medical background, but it was a full aortic dissection, and it's rare for anybody to survive it. And so I feel like I was given a second opportunity. And it has shifted my focus. I think ultimately led to my retirement from a business career that I enjoyed to pursuing some passion projects that I'm doing now. And I think it was a variable in the splitting up with my ex. And so, it's had material change. And I think it's absolutely changed how not only how I show up, but how I think about showing up. Not just for my loved ones, but for every person that I meet.
It's interesting how you literally had someone cutting into your heart, and it shifted kind of like the way that you show up for your passions, the way that you show up for your loved ones. Do you feel like that experience made you more connected to your heart?
Yeah. I do feel like it did. And I feel like, looking back on it now, like so many of these, you bump up against the obstacle, you recognize that there's no way out but through, right? Whether you want to go there or not, you have to go through. And on the backside of that, I can look back, I can say now that it was a real gift to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's an intense situation to where you don't have another option but to go through.
Right.
We have these other life transitions where we have to consciously put effort into surrendering and letting go. Like a divorce or a career transition, it's not necessarily life or death.
Right.
But I also think if we treated it more as so, how consciously can I let myself go into this transition without hanging on, just as if I'm having open heart surgery, even though it's not that. But,
right.
I think if we shifted our perspective of it on that a little bit, I think that we would move through it with more ease and grace, and also come out so much more alive.
Yeah. And those transitions, particularly grief, can feel like that. It can feel like open heart surgery, right?
Oh, totally.
If people really allow themselves to go through the full grieving process, they will reach a point where they feel like their heart's going to break. And, wake up and realize it didn't break. What a gift. It felt like it was going to break.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it'll break tomorrow, but it didn't break this time.
Mm-hmm. What do you feel like supported you through a transition of really intense grief to be able to like allow yourself to break?
I just the gradual recognition that my feelings are valid and they don't necessarily have to live in the restriction that I was raised with, you know, in this sort of typical macho male view that, you know, be a soldier, soldiers don't cry, you know, we don't talk about our feelings, all of that kind of stuff. And recognizing that, okay, you know, I am who I am. And I do have a very sensitive side, and I'm going to let myself experience all that I am. And that allowed me to go deeply into those feelings, and likewise deeply into the feeling of spirit and joy. And
totally, yeah, I think it gives you access to the full range when you just have that safety to actually feel.
Right. Yeah. It's a gift.
Yeah. I love that. So what were there any other transitions that you've experienced that particularly placed you on the path of knowing you were more? Even though probably in the moment it didn't feel like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think divorce, you know,
Yeah.
it's a hard thing, you know, and
there's so many people involved with divorce when you have kids too.
Yeah. And I was married to my ex for 25 years, and finally came to the conclusion that if I stayed in the marriage, my health would suffer. It already had to some extent. And so, you know, unlike me through most of my life, I said, I really have to focus on taking care of me and not trying to take care of somebody else.
Yeah.
And putting my own sentiments or feelings or health at risk. And so it was still very hard. You know, you can't be married for as long as I was.
Yeah, it's your whole identity. It's their whole identity. Because, you know, we understand who we are through relationship. And so when you're with somebody for that long, it's a death. It
is a death. Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's a spiritualist, Sadhguru, who basically says, if you have to get divorced, then recognize that you're basically pulling yourself apart at the cellular level. And I like that image because at some level that's true. You know, you become so interconnected in so many ways, functionally and dysfunctionally.
Totally.
It's that pulling apart and becoming your own individual identity again that's extraordinarily challenging and a huge transition. Yeah.
What were some of the gifts you experienced from divorce? I heard you say too, more of like taking care of yourself, prioritizing yourself.
Yeah, that's true. I think that probably the biggest gift for me was standing my ground. You know, that's something that's not been easy for me to do over the course of my life.
It's not easy for us sensitive ones.
Yeah. It's I have my own podcast called Encountering Wisdom, and I was talking a little bit, touching on some of these same subject materials with one of my guests, and he said it's the curse of the empath.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that terminology.
Yeah. The curse and the blessing, because then it becomes your greatest gift too, to be able to still be an empath and feel and care deeply, but to be boundaried.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's probably the biggest benefit for me. At the height of my feelings about divorce, when I was in one of my darkest places, I had the opportunity to go meet with a Navajo, a Diné tribal member who was a healer, and at the end of I spent 3 days with him and various kind of ceremonies and no psychoactive drugs. This was all related to the genuine DNA tribal process. But at the end of that period, he gave me a medicine bag that he had sourced buffalo hide. And he gave it to me and he said, I wanted you to have this with buffalo hide because buffalo stand their ground. And he made this image, and you can just see the power of the buffalo. And they do. You go up to Yellowstone where there's wolves, you'll never see a wolf pack take down a buffalo.
Yeah.
They stand their ground. And they say, okay, boys, if you want to bring it, but a few of you are going to get really hurt. And that was a great image for me. So that's probably been the best gift for me.
I love that. How has that, being able to stand your ground and being more boundaried while still maintaining access to your heart and your care and sensitivity, how has that impacted your relationships with people? Have you had to let go of any relationships because of becoming more boundaried? Has it created more connection?
Well, maybe. I mean, in the terms of the letting go, every family has their dynamics, and I'm in the midst of a family situation that I'm both drawing a boundary and at the simultaneously finding a loving path forward. Whether they're going to accept that loving path forward or not, I don't know.
Right.
But it's the best I've got to offer. And in the meantime, I'm not comfortable giving in to what their desires are.
Yeah, I think too, when you're able to show up like that, you're so much more clear, right? Because you're just really owning where you're at, what you're available for, while still deeply caring and deeply loving. And I find for me too, like when I'm in that place of just like really honoring myself and my boundaries and doing it from a place of love, I'm not caught in the mind of like, what should I do? I'm not caught in the overgiving. I'm not caught in the avoidance either. I think it allows you to be so much more just clear with the direction that you're moving and what you're available for. And I think it's hard for people, especially when you have different types of dynamics that have happened for years, because they also have to shift too, right?
Right.
The invitation isn't just for you, it's for them, and whether or not they're going to honor it, it's up to them, not you.
Right. Yeah. So it's showing up in new and interesting ways. It's already shown up in one business situation that I was in. That I realized that I need to extract myself from it, and I've already started that process by being both clear about the reasons why, and saying I want to do this in a way that is of highest integrity, and that leaves us both feeling good about the departure.
How did it feel to show up like that for you?
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, it feels clear.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is, I think, part of life's journey, and this is maybe more specifically for those who have struggled in gaining that clarity, but being clear about what we want and being able to express that, I think in general helps society function better.
Totally.
And oftentimes we're caught up in these little circles of trying to anticipate what somebody else wants and trying to be the pleaser to accommodate that wish. And all of a sudden, over a period of years, not even years, there's this pattern that emerges and people become disenfranchised and alienated because they're not being clear about what they want. Now, let's face it, being clear about what they want means they have to have their own identity. They have to understand who they are. That helps them a lot be clear about, and that takes work, you know.
Totally.
So
yeah, and I think too, it's very easy to get caught in that loop, even of like the codependency of, oh well, I don't need to know who I am or what I want because this other person's just doing it for me. But then at some point it clicks into like the resentment because it's like,
yes,
oh wait, that's not even me though, but I don't know who I am.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw this pattern in my mom, and she's come a long way. She was a pleaser, particularly in her marriage. And she's kind of emerged and evolved, you know, from the age of, I would say, the early 80s to her early 90s, that over that decade, she grew a lot in understanding that component and started being more clear about what she wanted instead of trying to please her kids or please.
She had her own buffalo journey.
Yes, she did. Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to touch on, Bruce, before we wrap up?
No. You've hit me with some really good questions. Really good.
Awesome.
This has been a really enjoyable
thank you so much.
Conversation. Thank you.
Would you like to share it all? We'll put it in the show notes where people can find your podcast or
Sure. If anybody's interested in listening to my podcast, it's called Encountering Wisdom. It's nascent in its journey. I've only got four episodes up, but
it's plenty to start with.
It's enough to start with, and I've had some amazing guests and talked about some really interesting subject materials: the complexity of the father-son relationship, judginess and judgment, forgiveness, and one more that I'm not thinking of right now. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Amanda. It's a pleasure. Yeah.